Still
No updates
practicing
there.
with the JavaScript. It's
Say it again.
it's a lot. I'm still practicing with the JavaScript. It's like really
Yeah.
complex to me.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, I've been practicing for sure.
Nice. Good to hear.
Yeah, me too. And about the project that you said, was the profile, the curve that it's changing based on the input. That was, well, I just, well, I didn't start. I just was kind of trying to understand how that works because on the exercise it doesn't say anything about. Well, I don't know if I'm wrong or something, but I don't remember seeing something like how you take a, I don't know, a div and you put something inside and then you use the Windows unlock, all those kind of functions. I didn't see anything in the exercise, nothing like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't think it really does. For which project were you talking about?
No, it's the last project. It's like the profile card that you have some inputs and depending on the input, it changes the card.
Right. 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 Yeah. It's a little. Yeah, it's true. They kind of leave a little mystery for you to figure out there in a way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, so today, what we have scheduled was supposed to be like a code revision exercise, how to make your code like very readable, easy to understand, and things like that. But I'm kind of feeling like circling back around to it. Because I think it's like when you're at a point where you can have a project and feel comfortable, like, okay, I can come up with a solution with JavaScript. Maybe it's a little messy, but it worked. I don't understand 100%, but I can kind of get it out of me. Then it's nice to go back to it and say, how could you make this very neat? But I think maybe doing another project and another, so a little more, um, getting our confidence up a little more with JavaScript could be good. And then after, talk about refining it. Because if we're not swaying good with the JavaScript yet, it's not so much context to talk about making it so neat. Um, so yeah, I wanted to, I wish I put a little more time in this, but I'm gonna try to kind of demo a similar project, kind of, to um, the conditional profile card. So I was thinking of starting that module, conditional profile card, which is, I think it has the master in JavaScript thing on it. Yeah. So I want to kind of create like a similar one and kind of narrate how I would approach it and have you guys ask questions and all that, and then give you some time to try it on your own. Let's see here. All right, so let me set this up, and then all right, get the CSS. All right. let's take a look. Screen 2. All right. Great. So now it looks like it's kind of already running. Maybe not. Oh, is the npm run start or something? Okay, cool. Let's see if we can start this up. I'll do npm install. Let's see. Maybe let's try it here. So let me look at this. Let's see here. Okay, so, all right, let me do something simpler here. So I think that's a good thing that you brought up, Israel, that we can go over. So, all right. So we've been getting a little more comfortable with JavaScript, using arrays, looping. And so now let's see if we can get more comfortable with having JavaScript interact with HTML, because that will be useful for the conditional project. So so first off, if I have a div here that has an ID content, this is something you were talking about, and I think I've showed this once or twice, but we could really dig into it. How would I select this div with JavaScript? Anyone remember that?
As document element by ID. You get element by ID.
Cool. Get element by ID. But what else are we needing other than that?
Document dot.
Cool. Nice. Dot get element by ID. Yeah, because like, so yeah, to be clear, right now we're going over, because we're talking in your exercises for JavaScript, right? You're learning about functions, arrays, console log, and all these different JavaScript things kind of isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now we're talking about how can it connect in a website? And usually it's you have HTML and you have JavaScript. How can they talk to each other? Yeah, and so JavaScript has this keyword document that has a lot of things built inside of it. It's not showing up in this JS fiddle. Let me see if I go to console log here, clear this document dot. Here we go. So inside a document, if I do dot, it shows all these things: add events, add listener, get document, get element, get position, ID, location, etc. There's a bunch of stuff you can use. And so one of those things is called get element by ID that Israel mentioned. So that's why it works. Get element, and now it's populating because document has it inside of it. Great. And so what comes next?
Parentheses. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, whatever.
Go for it, Brandon.
Oh, parentheses. Get element by get element by ID. Parentheses, then content. And quotations.
Good.
And then as a question, like, get element by name. What would that look like with that with that ID? Would it be the period that we add, or what?
By name.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one, but there is one called query selector.
Oh, that's what I'm confusing it with. Okay, because I'm like wondering if you got a class, like what do you use? So query selector.
Yeah.
Okay.
Query selector is where, similar to CSS, you can use a dot for a class. You can use a hashtag for an ID.
Got it.
Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions about that? What this is doing? It's selecting this div right here.
So if it's a class, we use query selector. If it's an ID, we use get element by ID.
Yeah, let's kind of demo that. Change this to class, and we'll say content class, I guess. All my fancy shortcuts don't work in this thing. Okay, and then content class, like, oh, and then I change this to a dot because it's a class. Typically, you would put this in a variable because, well, yeah, let's just do that, and then we'll show how that's helpful later. So I would name this like content div, maybe, because that's exactly what it is. It's a content div. I can name it whatever I want, though. Let's call this const content class div. Oh wait, equals content ID div. I guess I'll call this, and content class div. Great. So I'll say here is the ID. Here is the class. And then, you know, when you're trying things out, you can console log to test what's going on. So they show up here. And now if I want to understand this better, I could console log the variable. So console.log content ID. Yeah, that. And I'll put some labels so when I look at it in the terminal, I know what I'm looking at. ID. And I'm going to put class. Okay. So now I'll run it again. Something's not working. Oh, I spelled it. Wait. Yeah, it's spelled wrong. Content div. Whoops. Like that. Okay, let's try again. Okay. Yeah, I remember this last time. This isn't normally how it looks in a normal inspector, but this is cool. So it shows you all the things. So remember I console logged the keyword document? Like I put it somewhere. I guess I can put it right here. open up the inspector, and if I do document dot, it shows all these different things. Similarly, if you select a div with JavaScript, it has all these variables with it, all these attributes, things you can use. Most of them I don't know, but I'm sure they do something. Remove property, that's a cool one. You can remove a property of it. Padding, that looks like a CSS style thing. These are all like CSS things, it seems. Item. Yeah, so cool. There's a bunch of them. Great. And so now there's a bunch of different things you can do. One of them, so we'll talk about two slightly different ones. So one of them is called inner text. So we can say content, content ID div. Let me just copy and paste it like that. And then dot, and there's, remember, like all these things, it has a bunch of things in there. And one of them is inner text. And I believe that's when you only change the text, or does it add to it? Let's see. No, it does replace the text. So yeah, it changes the text on the inside. And remember, this is an equal sign. That's like when you override something. I think if you put a plus, like a plus equals, I think it just adds it to what's already there. Yeah. If I put a space, it adds it. Yeah. Cool, so that's one. And then you have another one called, let's use the class. So any questions about that? Any questions about why content ID .div .intertext makes this change? All right, and so let's do this one. Yeah, because remember, this variable represents the element we selected. So that's why we can put that variable name. So now we got the class, and there's another one called inner HTML. Yeah, exactly. So you can do this. And so what do you guys think is the difference between the two? After looking at that, looking at the result.
The H1.
Come again?
The H1 maybe? Making them.
I put a H, like what I mean is specifically inner text versus inner HTML.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, wasn't specific enough. There's another clue there.
Oh, looks like in inner HTML you can change, you can add the div or class.
Right. You can add divs, or let's change this to a button maybe. Now it's a button. I wonder if I do a plus here, does that also work with that? Yeah, cool. It adds in addition to. Nice. So yeah, if you want to add HTML to a div using JavaScript, you could do it like that, inner HTML. But if you only want to add text, you can do this one. Yeah, and so why would you do that with JavaScript when you could just I could just technically, just do like this or something, and it would show up. Then I won't need that. You just run it, and it looks the same. Well, a word that's tossed around a lot is dynamic. So it's like, depending what happens, if Israel logs in, it should say hello Israel, but if Jackie logs in, it should say hello Jackie. So that's dynamic. Yeah, and so let's try that. So let's put like an input here. Let me say type equals text. And I'll give it an ID of name, let's say. All right, let me get rid of this. I'll keep the button. That's fine. Okay, so here's and I'll put a label. Label. So the for and the ID match name and name, so just kind of puts it next to it. Fine. All right, and so I want to grab what someone puts as a name, and I guess we'll put a submit button. Button submit, and I'll give this an ID of submit. Cool. And so now I want to grab what someone puts in their name, and maybe I'll change something. I'll change the hello world button, perhaps. So any thoughts? What would be like the first basic thing to do in JavaScript to make that happen? Someone types their name, hits submit, and maybe these things don't show up yet. We'll make these show up when we want, not like automatic. Just like on a basic level, what's the first thing we need to do with JavaScript and the HTML?
Would it be maybe like const submit equals document.query selector?
Right.
And then right, and then add the submit ID within the parentheses first.
Right. In other words, I should have said in layman terms. I was looking for something in layman terms. So in other words, the first thing to do is select the element with JavaScript. Okay.
Yep.
So we can create we don't need to, but it makes sense to create a variable.
You said we don't need to? We don't need to?
Not really. Like for this, for example, I could have went like content ID div, that's right here. So I could have went like this. I could have done that. Because here I'm selecting the element, okay, and then I'm doing that, and it would still work.
Got it. Okay.
But it's just cleaner when I make it a variable. Easier to.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, cool. So, all right, you said.
Yep. So const submit, right? We could just keep it as submit equals then document.query selector.
Document.query selector.
And then in those quotations, we could put the hashtag submit.
Yeah. getting tired of this AI thing. Can I take it off? Sure, you probably can. But all right. But yeah, right. So we selected it. Cool.
Mhm.
So somebody else want to try to tell me what is the code I need to select the input? Oh, it still does it there. Yeah. It's gonna try to do it somewhere else so it doesn't. But yeah, and you can, use line 5 as a guide. The AI is probably gonna help you anyway.
Would it be
Mhm.
constant name?
Const name,
Equals document query selector
right.
name.
Great. And you would have to put the hashtag
Hash name. Yeah.
because of the ID. Right. And so that means, if you're doing a project, you should think, okay, you need to, 9 times out of 10, you need to put an identifier on the HTML. So that way you have something to work with the JavaScript,
Yeah.
But great. So we selected the submit button. So that when we click submit, we do something. And then also the name. So we can grab that. So cool. So now we want to. So I want to think. I know when I hit the submit button, I'm gonna grab the value, but that's gonna be like a click event. When you click it, something happens. So usually, if I'm doing something like that, and I'm clicking something, I just start out with, can I do a console log? So that way, when I click, the console log shows up. That's easy, and I'm gonna, something simple I can try. So I know this is my submit button, so I saved in the variable submit. So I can do submit, and like we know when we console logged earlier, when you select, so that's another interesting thing, that when you select different elements, depending on what kind of element it is, sometimes it has different kinds of properties. Like this one has inner text, but if you have a button, it might have other ones. But anyway, so one of those properties, so we saw one is called inner text, another one is inner HTML, another one on top of that is called add event listener. Cool. Anyone remember what that does? I think I showed y'all earlier on, but
Yeah. So it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, whatever.
you gave it to him last time, Israel. You go ahead, Israel. What are you thinking about?
Well, I was trying to figure out that earlier when I was checking the project, and I see that the project is divided by 3 parts. That is one of them, and it's like it takes basically listen. It takes the input of the or check when someone put an input or another action, something like that, right?
Yeah, that's a good start for sure. So there's different kinds of events. There's a click event. When you click, there's hover event. When you mouse hovers over a button, it ignites and can do something. There's one when something changes, etc. There's a bunch of them. And so with an event listener, it takes two. It's a function, there's parentheses here. And so it takes two items inside of there. it takes the name of the event, and then it takes the function. Okay. So here in quotes, we can put click, and that tells it, okay, we want some function to happen when we click. And so for now, like I said, I want to do something simple. So I'm going to use my arrow function. And I think I talked about last time with arrow functions, what's cool sometimes is if you know you're going to do only one line of code, like what I'm about to do right now, console log clicked. I don't need to put curly brackets. So sometimes that's nice. So let's ground ourselves here. This is all the event listener, what I'm highlighting. If I click on this parenthesis, I see this last one is highlighted. This is separated by a comma in the middle. So this is one half, and that's the other half. All right. And so this is the arrow function. These two parentheses are with the console log. So when it clicks, I'm hoping I see the console log. Let's see if that works. Okay, so I'm gonna look at my console. Let me clear it. Okay, click, and it showed up. Only when I click, so that's working. Great. All right, any thoughts or comments there?
The click, it's that still is just like a label, right? Or not that one. The first before the function is just like a label, right? In quotes.
Yeah, I don't know if I use the word label. Like this right here, what I'm hovering over.
Oh, the one before, the first one on the inside.
Oh, this one.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. That's like, yeah, you can, let's see, I think hover is one. I wish we could, let's Google it. Add event listener hover. Oh, mouse over, not hover, but mouse over. Because in React, which y'all look at later, I think it's hover. Let's see. So we put on mouse hover. So now, not when I click, but when I hover my mouse over it, I will hope I see this. I'll say hovered. Let's see. Okay, console, run it. Yeah, it showed up when I hover. I didn't click, believe me. Yeah, nice. So you could like change the color when you hover over it, for example.
So you don't have to put anything in the parentheses. You can leave it blank like that.
Yeah, this is a arrow
It's like the
function.
function call, yeah.
Yeah, so we could also do it like this. We could say function parentheses curly bracket, open it, and then we could say console log hovered, and it would still work. Let's see. Yeah, it's still working. So you're calling a function, and then you got your curly brackets right there. This parenthesis is from the add event listener. How would I organize this? I might go like something like this. So that's closing there. That's inside. I think I could even do this. There we go. It's a little more easier to read. So this is a function. This is the whole thing. Hola, niño. ¿Estás bien? Ay. Tiene papitis. Still works. Oh, man. All right, he's in a papa phase. So yeah, so Shilling, that you could do it like this too.
Okay.
So remember, it's separated by this comma right here. But yeah, so I just did it like an arrow function. So this is slightly different syntax. And that's functions in general, you know, like when you call a function, you always put a parentheses. Like a traditional one is like something like that. And so this is always going to be there. And it's available for you to put something in there if it makes sense.
Oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, like if I was going to say, you know, a name, let's say, equals that, and I can say like has the name value, for example, and I can say console log hi name value. You can call it and say name John, and this would say hi John, depending on what I put in here. So this thing goes up to this name value and it goes down there, etc. But so that's, you know, but sometimes you don't need to pass it like that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Cool, yeah. Parameters. Okay, great. So that's a good starting point. Can I click on this thing and make it, when I click, can I make it console log? Good starting point. So what were we gonna do? So that's a check. Now, what I want to do is, if I console log this, maybe I can do these things. I can make the button appear. That would be cool. Let me get rid of this one. So any thoughts about that?
Quick question, and you don't have to show it at all, but I saw on what do you call it, the W3 schools about onClick. Is there a huge difference between that and the add event listener? Would you use one over the other, or?
I wonder. Let me see. onClick versus click event listener. I wonder if that's. I wonder if it's actually just.
I'm wondering if it's just that, like specifically if you're trying to listen out for a click and nothing else, maybe that is what can be used in addition, you know, because it's the same. It's really the same thing. The only difference is in the HTML you're adding onClick equals, and then you're adding that same function to it in JavaScript.
Oh, onClick seems like. Wait, let's see. Click.
From what I'm reading, onClick is for like single use or like a simple like handling just one event, and then because if you're gonna use it again, it gets overridden. And add event listener will be more for multiple handlers.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it looks like onClick is something you add to it right here, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. That's what I saw. The example I saw, it added it there. Then in parentheses, it had like a function, and then the function was described in the script.js.
Got you. Yeah, it's the interesting.
That makes sense.
Keep on reading up on, but that makes sense. Simpler case. and it, you know, it might. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, so it could be just a matter of preference. You know, what makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering. Carlos.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't some reason. It says, yeah, basically what Chris and Brandon said. OnClick is simple and easy to use, but limited to one event handler, while Add Event Listener is more powerful and flexible, supports multiple handlers and advanced options. So basically, the Add Event Listener allows you to do it like multiple times and handle it like multiple times, while OnClick like only to one single event.
Okay. Gotcha.
There we go. Nice.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So, without getting into specifics, if I wanted the so right now, the Hello World button, what code is making the Hello World button? Because I don't have a Hello World button here in the HTML. In the JavaScript, what number is making the Hello World button?
14.
14. Yeah.
Right. So now from there, listen, we don't have to talk about 100% how, but like, what's a good guess, or where would the location in the code be if I wanted to do something where, like, when I click submit, that the button appears? Not like automatic, but I need to click the button for that button to show up.
It's gonna be in line 10. Instead of the console log, you would do a function where the button pops up after you click.
Right.
Is that what you're asking? I don't know.
Exactly. Like where? Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, and that's the whole point of the console log. A console log is like a little simple placeholder to think, okay, I know when I click the button, it console logs for me. So that means if I want something different to happen when I click the button, where is it going to go? Right there, because that's that little nook where things can happen. So now that we're going to do potentially more code, we can use curly brackets with the arrow function and hit enter. And I might hit enter here just so we can see all this. Okay. And now we can get the Hello World button, take it out, put it in here. So we selected right here, we're selecting the element, the HTML that comes from here. And then we're saying when it clicks, I want you to do this function. What's inside the function? So in JavaScript, to put a button, change the inner HTML and put a button there. Okay, so now we see the button isn't there anymore, the Hello World button. So let's click, and there it is. Great. Any thoughts, comments, questions about that?
What's the reason behind the plus equal again versus this equal?
Oh yeah, it will it adds to what's already there.
So if you just do equal, it wouldn't work.
So in the content class div, that's right here, we're selecting content class, which is this thing. And currently there's the text says here's a class. So that's why right here it says here's a class, hello world. So if I change it to equal, it would just override it.
Oh, got it. Versus adding onto it.
Yeah. So now instead of here is a class, this is gonna say just the button when I click submit, like that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. plus equals. I think that's the same thing. I think that's kind of similar to like the I plus plus shortcut, you know? I think
Yeah.
we could
And
say, so we could do like
plus.
equal. Yeah, if we do equals, um, this might not work. Like that, maybe? I mean, no, not inner HTML.
Found something. There's other operators. You can do subtraction, multiplication. Yeah, in some sense, is kind of like index plus, as you were saying.
Value, perhaps? Bet you there's some kind of thing. No. Some version of that. I wonder if it was what the thing was giving me. Oh, okay, it is that. Okay. So that's the same thing as plus equals. We're saying that the inside of the HTML of this element, we're going to change it to whatever's in there already, but then also add this thing. And the shortcut of doing that is doing plus equals. Whoop. That's like saying, take what's already inside of that thing and add this to it.
Gotcha. Now, is minus equals a thing? Like take what's there and subtract it, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
Maybe.
I could look it up.
Yeah, look it up. Okay, cool. So that was fun. All right, and so Drew's got something there for you in the comments, it seems.
Oh yeah, you can. Okay.
Okay, sweet.
Cool.
Nice. All right, and so let's say we wanted to. Okay, we want to put a button. Let's say that. That sounds good. But let's say instead of saying hello world, we want to instead of world, we want it to be dynamic. So it'll say it depends what you put in the input. If you say whatever name, it'll say hello Alex or something. So remember, this is a function, so we can put multiple things in here. So I can hit enter, give myself some more room, and think about this. So we want to get the value of this thing. And the name variable represents this whole input. So we can say const. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because I don't like that because it gets, well, name, I'll say name input value. So that's a variable. And so the way you can Google it, how do you get the value of the input? And it would be dot name. It's like this document thing dot name. Name comes from here. So we could do something like this. And that's the same thing. We're selecting the HTML element, the input on line 8, selecting it with JavaScript. And then one of the properties it has is dot value, which is whatever you type in there. But it just looks cleaner like this. I might even call this name elements, just so it's even clearer. Name element. Cool. And so to make sure that works, I would console log it first. Name input value. Here's my input. Give a space. All right, let's look at that. See if we got the value. Ashley, submit. So that's my label. Here's my input. It's just a label so I know what's inside the thing. And this variable is Ashley, and that's what I wrote there, so that works. And this is a Google search. How do you get the input from the, how do you get the value of it? What you type in the input, it would tell you .name. Nice. And I like what I'm doing here. I like my variable names because it tells exactly what it is. That's good. Okay, so now I know that this code right here, that variable name gives me what I want. So Israel, I think you brought up backticks before. The template literal, or the what was it?
Oh yeah, the template literal.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Examples.
So here's a good case for it. So inner HTML, for it to work, you need to give it a string. Which normally we think of strings as quotation marks, and whatever you put in is what it'll be. So you can use backticks instead, like that, and it's still gonna work. So far, all this is doing is making a button right there. So let's see if that still does it. Submit. It still works. So it's still a string as far as JavaScript is concerned. But you can now you can make this dynamic. You can change it. So in other words, you can put a variable. So anybody remember how to make that variable instead of world? God damn it.
You already gave the answer.
Yeah, but see if you can do it. What would it be?
There's $sign.
The
right there.
curly brackets, and then you put a variable inside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it's name input value. We console logged it already, so we know what that does.
Dynamic.
Cool. So instead of hello world, it's gonna change depending on what we write. So now we can say hello Nadia. Says hello Nadia. Great. And so that's pretty sweet. And by the way, this can keep on going. Another cool thing about the backticks is you can hit enter and you can like add more stuff. So we could organize this like so. So I can say like, I don't know, H1, welcome, and whatever, a UL, your shoes, take off, not your pants. I was gonna say your coat. This is AI. The heck? And relax. All right, and then I can hit hello, Nadia, and then all this HTML stuff shows up. Blah, 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 blah. So you can make a whole page, like someone can log in and see their whole profile page. There's a bunch of HTML. I wonder if I go like this, class title, and in the CSS, if I go dot title, color, I don't know what color that is. Oh, it gave me a bunch of stuff. I don't know what that does, but Oh yeah, it worked.
Mm.
So anyway, you can like have a bunch of HTML with classes and IDs, and it's like before doing this, you could like first test it in your HTML like that, and style it however you want, you know, put make it look pretty, blah blah blah, and then after you're satisfied, you could put it in here, and so it only shows up after someone logs in with the right password, for example, you know. Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of a preview of how we can use JavaScript and interact with the HTML. Any questions about that? Cool. And then let's say, you know, let's say you're given this just like it is right now, and the project is, you know, change the styling of the welcome page to blah blah blah. You know, a good skill is to make connections, you know. So, you know, you could see, okay, I see this word content. Where do I see that elsewhere? Okay, this has an ID content. That must mean that this thing is connected to that thing, you know? So having those skills in the project that you guys have to do the conditional profile, you'll be given a boilerplate with a lot of stuff built for you, and you're gonna have to like study it. And really, if you take time and you look at details and see, okay, I see this word down here at line 10. Where else do I see it? Let me look up and look down. Now we are a little familiar with an add event listener. We know inner HTML. All those things you'll start to see, and you can start to connect the dots. We know that HTML talks with JavaScript. So look at the JavaScript, then go to the HTML and look for connections, you know? Yeah. Any other questions about how something you guys want to try, or I don't know, something about JavaScript talking to HTML or anything like that? Maybe I could show you guys something with a loop in HTML. Yeah, let's do that. Or how are we doing? We all right? We want to take a break, or?
The loop sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Okay, so let's say I want to give a few things that have. Let me scratch this and scratch all this. Okay, so let's say I have class profile, and I'll say this is like class equals profile name. All right, let me organize this a little. And I'll say this is like Alex or something. Okay, so that's the whole that's a profile. That's Alex's profile. And then I have another one that will be Zach. And I'll make one last one. That will be Shelby. And maybe I'll have all these things inside of a container just to feel a little better about myself. Div, this would be class equals container, which is just a convention. You can name it anything you want, unless you're using Bootstrap or something. All right. Those are all inside. Yeah, these are all inside of a container. Okay, cool. So let me think here. Okay, so let's say we get a let's do a button here. So input, so something kind of similar. We'll use a type text, and we'll have a submit button submit. Once again, we'll put this, so we'll call it name. We can name it whatever we want, any ID we want. I'm gonna call this Neo, and I'm gonna say ID for this is submit. I can name it whatever I want. Let me just do that then. I'm just gonna call it submit anyway, but I could name it whatever I want. All right. So we have 3 names and a submit. Cool. So what I want to do is I want to type a name in here, click submit, and depending on what name I put, we'll add something to, like, I was thinking something like the Matrix. It could be like, what do they say in the Matrix? Like, Neo is the one. Is there a phrase they use? Like, you're the one, or?
Yeah, the chosen one.
The chosen one, right. That's what I was thinking. I thought I was wrong. You are the chosen one, let's say.
We were thinking about Star Wars, maybe.
Star Wars is the chosen one?
Like you are the one or something like that, yes. I don't
Oh,
know, it just reminded me of
Star
Star Wars.
The Anakin.
All right.
There you go.
Cool. Yeah, so what we need to do here is loop through these to check. We need to check the first one, check the next one, and check the next one to see if it matches the one. So we need to select it. I think I need to change this. Let me just change this really quick. I mean, there probably is a way, but I just want to do the thing that's in my head already. Okay. And this last one. All right. So now we want to select these things, but we need to select all of them. We can't just select one. So far we've done const. We can call this name or something equals document dot query selector, and it's a class of name. So I'm gonna put a dot just like we do in CSS, and let's console log this name. Like that. There, console, and run it. It's null. Oh, I said profile name. profile dash name. Run it. Oh yeah, this crazy thing. Well, let me just say dot value then. I think that will give us, maybe not. Actually, I think it won't. It's undefined yet. I think inner text. There we go. Okay. So I said profile name, right? It only gave me Alex, even though if you notice, there's 3 classes, 1, 2, and 3 that have profile name. So it's like, why didn't that work? Well, we can use query selector all and run it. Why didn't that work? Query selector all, console log name, undefined. Pretty sure that's it. Query selector all. Look that up. Query selector all. Yeah. What am I missing? Document.query selector all. And you put a dot. Let's see. So the class profile name. Oh, right. Yeah. I know why. But now it's hard to show you guys. So yeah, it's annoying because it does it like this. Well, what this thing does is it gives you something similar to an array. It's called a node list. I wish I could console log it for you, but just imagine that it gives you something kind of like a list like this. And it could be like Alex, Zach, and what was it? Shelby. So this variable right here gives you something like this in a sense. But it's not an array like a JavaScript array. It's kind of similar. Great. So now here's where loops come into play. So we want to loop through each one of these. And for each item, we want to do the same thing, which in this case, we'll check the value to see if it matches what we typed. And if it does, then we'll add something. So now, how do you do a loop? For in this case, we could do a for each. For each, you put what first? Anybody remember that one?
For each name.
Where's say it again, Shelby.
For each name, would you put?
Almost. You do put for each, but something has to go before that. What the?
You need a variable, so we need a like a
Parentheses.
const for it that you need.
No, not a variable. We don't need the word const. We need to put the name of the array comes first. So anytime you use a for each, the first thing you put is the name of that array, which in this case is name, because like I told you, when you do query selector all, it gives you an array-like thing.
Okay.
A node list. So we'll put name dot
So that's called a node list. What that array that it's giving us is what's
Yeah.
called a node list. Okay.
Node list, which can do some things similar to arrays as we've been practicing with, but not all of it. Cool. And so then we put a parentheses. For each is a, I guess they call it a higher order function, which means for each is technically a function already, but we need to put a function inside of that parentheses. So I could hit enter and then hit tab, and I can do my arrow function and do a curly brackets. Cool. And now I need to put some kind of variable to represent each one of those items. Maybe I should put this here for reference. Alex, Zach, and Shelby. So we have to remember that name is some kind of list thing like this. So I want to create a variable that will represent each time I loop over one of them, that's what it will live in. It's almost like a fair. What's that wheel? The
Ferris wheel?
No, not a
roulette.
No, that's what I was gonna say, and I'm like
Roulette.
No, the
Like a Wheel of Fortune.
No, it's such a stupid question that you guys can't even answer because you when you find out what I'm asking, you're gonna be like, bro, like at the fairs where you go into the thing.
Ferris wheel.
Oh, okay.
In the carnivals and stuff. Is that what you're
The big
talking
Ferris
about?
wheel where they stop at the top?
Yeah.
It's a Ferris wheel.
Yeah. In Spanish we call it like Chicago wheel or something with Chicago. I don't know the name in English though.
Chicago. What is it?
In Spanish we say Rueda de Chicago.
What the heck? That's so weird.
Yeah. That's why I was.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it was invented in Chicago. I don't know.
Hilarious.
Or they're famous right there, or they build the best ones in the country. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Anyway, Ferris wheel. So I'm gonna call this Ferris wheel now. Ferris wheel.
Wait. So
are you sure that's what you
why
asked?
Say it again.
Why are you calling it a Ferris wheel? Just cause?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is, when
Ferris wheel.
in a Ferris wheel, there's a seat for someone.
Okay.
And then it keeps going around. So whatever you put in the parentheses of the function that's inside here, like in the middle,
it goes around and around.
Yeah, and it's almost like a place for whatever you're looping over for it to sit in, you know? It's like a little
Fun fact. Okay.
Wow.
in Chicago.
I wonder how the Ferris family's doing. Interesting.
I mean, I must say the Spanish name is a lot more like a Ferris wheel. They're just talking about like a little ferret on a Spanish one is a lot more. You know, like another crazy Spanish word. I don't know. It's from where you guys are. Carlos, you're Colombian, right?
Yes, I am.
I was told they call it policía muerto.
Acostado, like a lying policeman cop. Yeah,
No,
like
like
those
bump.
the bumps. Yeah, the speed bumps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a crazy name.
Lying cop.
Policía muerto, like
or dead cop.
Yeah. On the road. Anyway, isn't that crazy? Anyway, okay, so our Ferris wheel, great. I'll take out the name. So yeah, we can name this name element that represents each one we iterate over. It has a place to live, which is name element. And now we can manipulate it. So for now, I'll just console log to make sure it works. So I'll console log name element. And usually when I console log it, it seems like it's giving us a billion things. So I'm just going to say dot inner text. So I think that shows this stuff. Let's see what happens. It does. Good. There it is. So yeah, I'll get rid of this. That's just for our reference. But we're doing query selector all. And we're getting all of the classes that have a name profile name. There's one here, and one here. So it's getting all of them, and then it puts it in an array type of thing, and we're looping over it. Great. And so from here, we'll do our thing again. We'll say const input. I'm gonna call this input value equals document query selector, and it would be ID neo, I called it. So we're selecting that, and I'm gonna say dot value. That's how we get what we type in there. So this is the input value. And then I'm gonna make a variable for the button, const submit, query selector submit. So that's the ID right there. Great.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
My bad if you already mentioned it, but name element that you're using as a parameter, right? Right there.
It's a parameter, yeah.
Okay. Why is it needed in the console log if it's really nothing, right? Because it's not a thing that you're pulling. All you need is the text.
Well, it's something that it's built in to the for each function. Because remember, we're not doing this in any ordinary place. This is inside of a for each function that has a lot of built-in stuff in it.
Okay.
So because of the built-in functionality, automatically whatever you're looping over will be passed through into this parameter.
Okay, so why does it need to be printed with it? Like, why does it need to be? Is there no way to just print the names that it's looping through without the parameter and the inner text?
There wouldn't be no way. No, you need to put that there to interact with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like line 7, you don't need. I was just doing that to show it to y'all.
Got you. Okay.
I don't know if that's what you're asking, but
yeah, it kind of sort of. You made me realize what I was actually asking. So because I was just wondering, because nothing showed up but the name, but I see you needed to attach it to something because there's a parameter.
I put in the text, yeah. Okay. If this was, it seems like this JS fiddle thing, when you console log a selected element, it shows you a bunch of stuff. Normally it's not like that. Like if you do it in code spaces and you run it, it doesn't, but here it does. So I just made it shorter doing that.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so now we can say, okay, so we can say we want to do a condition. So this is a good moment to think in, if someone, Carlos or somebody can look, there's some phrase when programmers think about things in simple terms, like it's an approach, like to think about it, like, what do I need to happen? I want when I...
That's called pseudocode, I think, no?
There you go. Pseudocode. Yes. Pseudocode is when you just say, okay, when I go through each item, I want to check if the name matches what someone typed. It's like talking like that. So I don't know in pseudocode, do you literally write it or I don't know. I mean, I might do that if I'm like really stuck. I might just be like, yo, I'm stuck.
You
Let
can
me
just like comment like step by step what you need to do.
Right. And how do I like that? It looks like okay. So check.
You mean like a description of the actual code, correct? Like what are the actions and the
Yeah, it's like you don't know how to implement it yet with JavaScript, so you just kind of like write out notes that
like
you
the
will
logic
erase
of it.
once you figure out the actual JavaScript code.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's how I have used it. I don't know if that's like the traditional, but so check name element text, and then I would say see if it matches what someone typed in the input. If it matches, name it the chosen one. What I was thinking. So I can even just keep that there as a reference of what I need to do. So I need an if statement because it's a condition. If it matches, if it does. So I can say if, it's like showing it already. So if I know the condition goes in there, then I put my curlies. So if name element, which is what we had access to, dot inner text, because when we consoleized, that's how we got that. Could have Googled that before, is equal to input value, which is up here, line 2. I selected the input with JavaScript and I put dot value, which is one of the attributes it has. If inner text equals input value, I like that. That's cool. So sure. Well, let me get it first, and then if we have time, well, sure, why not? So this is another thing it has, JavaScript. You can add a class to it. So let's say we have a class in CSS that is like dot chosen, and if it has this class, we will give it background color like green and color white, sure. And I meant to put a dot there. Okay. So if the input value matches the inner text, then add the class chosen. So right now, this style isn't being added anywhere because none of them had that class. So if I go like this, if I hit a space and I put chosen and I run it, it gets its style because that's here. So you can do that with JavaScript. You can add a class and you can manipulate when. So here we're saying I'm selecting every single HTML element that has the class profile name. And we went over that there's 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3. It gives you a list, like an array. That's all. That array is saved in the variable name. So we get that name and we do dot for each, which allows us to loop over that list we got. And each time we pass over one, it will be saved in this variable. So first it's going to find this one. This is the first one in the list. So that will be here. Alex, so name, so input value, wait. Name element.innerText would be equal to Alex because that's the first one, the first iteration. It'll check to see if it's same as input value. And if it is, it adds the class name, class name chosen. It'll go like this, like that, which will trigger the CSS and will, yeah. So let's see, I'll put Zach and hit submit. Oh wait, there's no, oh, we got to do the submit thing. Yeah, so we got to say, yes, submit, but let's do it. Let's do it. Submit, which is this button, dot add event listener, parentheses. It takes two arguments, if you will, the label and the function. Cool. So we're going to say click is the label. So that way when it clicks, it triggers. And then we're going to do an arrow function right here. So I'm going to hit enter and kind of organize this a little bit. There's my function. So I'm going to say when it clicks, what am I going to do? When it clicks, I want to grab the value. I guess I'll do all of this stuff in there. Because if it happens, so if I loop right away and I check the input value before I click submit, there's nothing typed in there. So the input value is empty. So it probably did it. It said, does Alex equal nothing? No, it doesn't. Does Zach equal an empty string? No, it doesn't. Does Shelby equal empty string? No, it doesn't. So what I'm thinking is we have to put all this stuff in here. But that gets a little messy. So what I would do is I would probably put this in a function, const find chosen one. Make this a function. And I'm going to paste all that code, all that logic. Find chosen one is all of this stuff. I'm going to hit tab. Okay, there's the whole function right there. Name for each is all in that. Oop. And get rid of my pseudocode. All right, and so now, okay, this is good because I've seen examples like this on like W3. This is only a function, so I'll put find chosen one like that. When I click, I want to run this function, which is this. I think that makes sense. Shelby, submit. It's still not. I undo any parentheses. I would console log. This is another good move. Verify if your function is being called or not. So I think this is a syntax. I'm wondering if I need like parentheses like that. I think I don't. But to find out if I do or not, I would put a console log right here and make sure I see that console when I click. Maybe none of this is working right now, but at least I know it got triggered. So Shelby. Submit. Okay, they got called. That's good. But it didn't change. So now what I'm going to do is I would want to verify that there's actually, I want to know if the input value, when I click it, is the input value stored? Yes or no? So I'm going to say value. And then I'm going to put input value. And again, this is just a title. That doesn't do anything. I can put whatever title I want there. Okay, so let's clear the console, run it. Shelby. Submit. Ah, look at that. It's empty. So that's good. I'm verifying there is no input value, and that's why it's not working. So what's missing then? Maybe because this needs to live inside of here. I think that's why. Because if it's out here, it grabs the value when the page first loads. So I need the variable to get created inside of this function. I think that's what's going on. So now let's see. Zach. There we go. Cool. So that worked. Nice. So yeah, those are so I'm glad I ran into those issues there, so you guys just see how to problem solve. Like the console log is like, as you saw, was a key factor there. Verify if when I click the function is actually getting triggered. Verify does input value actually have a value when I click. I found out no. You know, so and you know, you could have approached that thinking, okay, well, what do I need to have? Well, this condition, it needs the inner text and it needs the input value. So I need to make sure it has that in order for it to work. Let's see if it works now. I don't think it will because it doesn't remove the class. Right. So you can also do like a remove class JavaScript thing, maybe at the beginning. If something has a class of chosen, remove it, or something like that. But anyway, there's an example of how loops come into play, talking to HTML and all that. And that's a little intermediate. There's simpler examples I probably could have thought of. This is what came to me, but that's a for each. You could have used a traditional for loop if you wanted. We could have done for let I equal 0, and then I name.length, because that's the name of our array, and then I++, etc. But yeah, I know I rushed through that, but is that an okay example of?
Alex, I got a real quick question. I remember something about the case sensitive in JavaScript. So in this case, when you're putting the input in the submit in that part, for example, you're putting on, what if you put in a lowercase? It wouldn't take the input, right? So you have to do something in JavaScript.
Lowercase where?
I mean, I don't know if it was, for example, here.
Here.
Exactly that.
Like, right, yeah. So if I said Alex,
it wouldn't take Alex, right?
I don't think so.
Or
yeah, I don't think so. Right, it doesn't. Yeah, and you could Yeah, and to do that, you would, I think what you would do is, I don't know if you can do that with a node list because it's not a normal array. But I think what you could do is the name element, you can say const lower name, yeah, like that. Name element dot enter to lowercase.
Sorry.
And then the input value, I would say const lower input. So no matter what someone types, you'll change it to lowercase as well. So no matter what, it's all lowercase. And now we would say this would be lower name. This would be input. And just like that. I think that should work. Alex. No, it didn't. But something like that. I don't want to waste more time, but it would be something like that, you know.
Okay.
That's a typical approach. Great. So yeah, I mean, I demoed this and maybe some of it's going over our heads, you know, but at least you can see how why loops are important, at least, right? How it can be used in a scenario. And priming you guys up a little bit with the query selectors and all that. Great. So I think that's a good time to call for a break. And when we come back, we can kind of take a stab at our conditional profile card. So something like 8:05 or so. Does that seem right? 20 minutes? 15? 8:05, yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, 8:06 or so. See you guys soon.
Okay.
Okay.